Everybody says OpenRouter is cost identical to going direct. I spent 5 charges trying to prove that wrong. OpenRouter claims one API, 500 plus models, and no pricing penalty. Does it actually deliver, or does the convenience come with a hidden bill? Charge 1, pricing pass-through. OpenRouter says it forwards provider rates with no markup, but run a heavy code agent on Claude Sonnet 4.6 for a month, and the bill lands at $196.23, not the $186 you'd pay going direct. That's $10.23 a month just to use the router, and it compounds every single month. Oh, I pulled up the official pricing page, and here's what's actually going on. OpenRouter charges a percentage fee on every credit purchase, plus a flat 80 or 80 minimum per transaction, so small top-ups get hit hardest. BOK is the escape hatch, zero fee up to $25,000 of list price inference per month, but you only get that if you bring your own provider keys. Now, the fee is genuinely transparent. It's right there on the pricing page, so this isn't a gotcha they're hiding. The gap is small on any single month, but small times 12 months is $120 a year, and if you're running multiple agents, that routing tax stacks. Buy OK is the clear fix if you want it gone entirely. This charge partially sticks. OpenRouter is transparent about the fee structure, but the claim of cost-identical pricing falls apart the moment you skip BAOK. The routing tax is real, and that's the first hidden cost this video is here to name. One of one charges on the board. I caught that minimum per transaction fee the hard way, topping up $5 at a time and watching it disappear faster than expected. Drop a comment if the routing tax has bitten you too. Charge 2, free model quality. OpenRouter lists 25 plus free models from Meta, Google, and Nvidia at $0 per million tokens. Most people's first question is whether these are real models or crippled demos. And that question matters a lot if you're shipping a prototype and counting on the free tier to hold up under 50 requests a day. The part that got me, these are the same weights as the paid versions, not demos. Poolside Laguna S 2.1 scores 70.2% on Terminal Bench 2.1, which is decent, but community reports show it hallucinates APIs more often than Claude class models and struggles on multi-file refactors. The 50 requests per day cap is the real killer for anything beyond quick drafts. The weights are real, but the rate limits and provider instability make them unreliable for production. One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. For drafts, research, and early prototypes, free models on OpenRouter are a fantastic deal at literally $0. For anything involving complex multi-file coding or sustained agentic loops, they'll let you down at the worst possible moment. This charge sticks. Free models fall short of paid Claude class on complex coding work, and the 50 requests per day cap makes them a non-starter for production. That's one of 2 charges holding up, and the costs are starting to look less hidden and more structural. Charge 3, latency overhead. OpenRouter's docs say routing adds roughly 25 to 40 milliseconds, which sounds fine on paper. But if you're running a chat app or an agentic loop with dozens of round trips, every extra millisecond stacks, and the real question is whether the real-world number matches the docs or whether it's actually much worse. I had to run it twice because the gap was bigger than the doc suggested. Third-party measurements put real-world overhead at 100 to 150 milliseconds, not 25 to 40, and one test clocked a total response of 742 milliseconds via OpenRouter versus 622 milliseconds going direct. For batch jobs, that's fine, but for interactive chat, that 120 millisecond gap is noticeable every single turn. OpenRouter uses Cloudflare workers for edge routing, which does help, and for batch workloads, the overhead barely matters. The problem is interactive apps and tight agentic loops, where 100 plus milliseconds per call accumulates fast. If your use case is async and batch, this charge is a non-issue. If it's real-time chat, direct provider access wins cleanly. This charge sticks. The 25 millisecond claim is a best-case floor, not the number you'll actually see. Real-world overhead runs 3 to 6 times higher, and that's one of 3 charges now holding up, with the 2 costliest dimensions still ahead. 3 charges down, 3 holding up, and we still haven't looked at what happens to your credit balance when a cheap model like DeepSeek V4 Flash meets an autonomous agent. That token burn question is the one that actually changes whether OpenRouter is a bargain or a trap, so let's get into it. Charge 4. Token burn on cheap models. DeepSeek V4 Flash is priced at 0.8 per million input tokens, which looks incredible. But a coding agent running autonomously doesn't just send one prompt, it fans out, retries, calls tools, and burns through hidden reasoning tokens. So the real question is whether that headline price survives contact with an actual agentic workload. Watch what happens. Community reports show a coding agent on DeepSeek V4 Flash burn through an entire $5 credit in a single day of normal use. The per token price is real, but autonomous loops multiply spend through tool calls, retries, multi-agent fan-out, and hidden reasoning tokens, none of which show up in the headline price. This charge sticks hard. Cheap per token does not mean cheap overall when an agent is driving. That's one of 4 charges holding up now, and the headline price on cheap models is the most misleading number on the whole platform. Charge 5. Uptime and reliability. OpenRouter claims its routing layer keeps your app alive even when individual providers go down, and the concrete number it points to is 99.85% uptime with routing active. The question is whether that routing benefit is real or just a marketing stat that collapses when all the cheap backends get hammered at once. I looked at the numbers across DeepSeek V4 Flash specifically, and the routing benefit is genuinely real. 99.85% uptime with routing versus 95.50% without. A 4.35 percentage point gap that translates to hours of difference in availability per month. OpenRouter's own infrastructure logged 99.95% uptime across 2024, with average latency on top models under 200 milliseconds. Routing genuinely helps, but it's not magic. If all the free and cheap backends are overloaded at the same time, OpenRouter can still degrade and there's no fallback to a provider you haven't already enabled. The uptime win is real for normal conditions, but don't treat it as a guarantee during high-demand spikes on popular models. This charge is dismissed. The routing benefit is confirmed. That 4.35 percentage point gap in availability is real, and it shows up in hours of uptime per month. Final tally, 2 of 5 charges delivered, 3 fell short, and that's the honest scorecard on OpenRouter's boldest claims. OpenRouter genuinely shines in 3 spots. One API covering 500 plus models across 80 plus providers makes model switching trivial. Routing bumps uptime by 4.35 percentage points, which is a real reliability gain. And BYOK removes the fee entirely up to $25,000 of inference per month, so power users get the convenience with 0 routing tax. Where OpenRouter falls short, real-world latency overhead is 100 to 150 milliseconds, not the 25 to 40 the docs claim, and that's painful for interactive apps. Free models hallucinate APIs more often than Claude class and cap out at 50 requests per day. Agentic workloads on cheap models can drain a $5 credit in a single day without a spend limit in place. Use OpenRouter if you want access to 500 plus models through one API, and you're willing to use BYOK to kill the routing fee. Skip it for real-time interactive apps, because 100 to 150 milliseconds of overhead every turn is a cost no amount of convenience makes up for. One thing the marketing page won't tell you, the flat minimum per credit purchase means if you top up $5 at a time, you're paying a 16% effective fee on that transaction, not the standard rate. Small top-ups are the most expensive way to use OpenRouter, and almost nobody catches it until the math stops making sense. If you want to cut the router out entirely and run models on your own machine, the video you want next is my Open Web UI plus Allama full setup walkthrough, which covers exactly how to get a local UI running against your own models with 0 API fees. And it pairs directly with everything I just covered about where OpenRouter's costs actually hide.